Good
Hi.
morning.
Good morning.
Hello.
Well, your
I
hair is
like your
very
hat.
gr Oh, thank you. You know, I like to dress on theme for our podcast, but I literally had nothing nautical or octopus theme to wear that also would suit Texas weather. So I wore my kindness hat 'cause I think that's like the overall theme of the
Oh,
story we're talking about today is kindness.
I like that. I did not dress on theme. I woke up and was feeling like I needed some raw energy. So I said, Def Leppard, here we go. Yeah, I've got a lot to do today. So I needed to feel in charge.
Yes, that's fair. I mean, dress for the theme of your life. I can't help it. Like you give me a
No,
theme and I'm
I
like, I
love
gotta
it.
be on brand, even if like slightly. Just a hint. A subtle hint.
I love it. I absolutely love it. It's a little early this morning where I'm at. We're recording early. Oh, matching mugs. Thank you to
Cheers.
shout out to one of our listeners slash my mom for sending us these adorable mugs. They're so cute. So
They are
yeah,
really cute.
I
So
know. She was like books
cheers.
and plants. I was like, you get me. You get me.
Cheers.
What you reading? What you reading?
I'm actually finishing up our book we're talking about today, Remarkably Bright Creatures. I'm very close to done. And then I gotta move into my book club book because we're meeting Saturday and it's In My Dreams I Hold a Knife.
Oh
And
yeah.
it gives very Pretty Little Liars vibes, if you
Ooh,
know that
okay.
show.
Mm-hmm.
But so I started it and then I got distracted because I needed to read some other books and I was like, oh no, we're in crunch time. So I need to read like 3 books this week.
Yeah. I mean, me too. Just because. Um,
Right. Like,
just because. I love that. Yeah.
one, but I'm like, well, it's the last week of the month. Let's like that's 2 full weeks of the month. Let's get them all in.
You can do it. I believe in you.
Thank you.
I finished a book last night, so I am investigating comps for my book.
Mhm.
And I did find, I think I mentioned a couple episodes ago that I was looking for a Phantom of the Opera book and it was a Why Choose. And I did find it. It's called Cruel Angel by
Ooh.
Rebecca Kinney. So I did start that one. Not a comp for my novel, but the plot twist, one of them is a vampire. So I'm like, what more could you want? Phantom, vampire. So why choose? But I finished reading Heartstrings by Ivy Fairbanks as a comp. It was okay. I liked it. I thought the story was cute. It's like a musician and he like broke up with the love of his life, or they broke up when he went on tour and then he comes back. It's set in Ireland during their friend's wedding.
Really?
So it was really cute. I think the thing that felt like a comp to me was the main character is dealing with some health issues and she decides to do it herself instead of ask for help. So that's very compy. And then the other thing I'm reading is it's a craft book. I'm reading a craft book and it's called Write Naked, a bestseller secrets to writing romance and navigating the path to success. So there you go.
Sounds very interesting. A recommended comp for your book that I know you now own because I saw your book purchase haul at half price. I think it could be helpful is Happy Place.
Oh yeah, yeah. I was actually gonna try and read that this week, I think.
Okay.
After
Yeah, I
after we read.
recommend that because I think you'll see why when you read it. Why I said
Okay.
maybe that one would be a good one for your book.
Yeah. Thank you.
In
I
just some
appreciate
subtle
that.
ways. Yeah, like some other
Yeah.
plot points. Yeah, anyway. Good luck to us with our ambitious reading list this week. Bless. Cheers.
I know, cheers. That's really ambitious, y'all. That's a little too
I
ambitious, I
just
think.
need to be paid to read. It would be golden.
Well, we're trying. We're working on it. Oh
Writing
man.
projects, any updates you want to share? Because I did finish. Thank you so much for letting me be a beta alpha first time reader of your novel.
Yeah, I mean, you read it and you gave me some really great feedback. So I started on some edits last week. I realized something in the editing process that I think was really interesting. You and I had kind of talked on the phone and talked through some plot points. And I realized I was trying to put too much in there. So I did some simplification. So I've got to do like a continuity check again because I did simplify one of the backstories. But yeah, I'm just right now, I'm getting ready so on July 1st, there is this pitch event happening on Instagram. And I don't really expect anything to come of it, but it was like setting a goal for myself of like having the book as ready as it could be in
Right.
my budget in case, somebody's interested in it. So we'll see what happens. I had a meeting last week with my social media strategist who helped me with my post for that day. So that's all ready. So yeah. And then I started book 2. So there we go.
I will say I really enjoyed your book.
Thank you.
Even in its still being worked on state, it was still very good. And I got sucked in, and then I'd find myself sitting there being like, 1, I really want a cup of coffee. 2, how like I'd be sitting there going, I need something to entertain myself. Why am I feeling that itch? Oh, this is what I want. So
Nice. Well, thank you for saying that. It means a lot. It's been a very weird, emotionally charged past few days when I think about my book because I've hit this point where I wrote it and now I have to decide what to do with it.
yeah.
And all of it feels really daunting. It feels really daunting to try and go the trad route. And it feels really daunting to go the self-publishing route. And I was talking with my husband last week and he was like talking through, through the whole thing with me. And I was like, I don't know what to do. Like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do now with this. Like,
Right.
what happens next? And he was like, well, what do you want to do? I said, what I don't want to be doing is doing everything myself because I've done that my entire professional life. I've owned several businesses. I've always been the one in charge of everything. And I really would love to not be in charge of everything. And so that kind of sealed the decision for me. So I think that I am going to try and go the trad route. I do think that trying to go the trad route, I am going to give myself a deadline. And if it feels like it's not panning out, then we're going to self-publish and try a different book later with trad. So that's kind of like, I feel like that was a big decision, but it also still feels really heavy and hard. Like, I don't know. I can't even explain it. It's like you wrote this thing, you're really excited about it. And then you're like, well, shoot, now I get to like face rejection and, all
Yeah.
the things. And you start questioning like all of your choices too. Like, I think that I need to get off social media a little bit because I hear a lot of authors talk about their rejections and their opening wasn't good enough. And then I start thinking about my opening, and then I'm like, so I need to like step back, and I do need to do line edits and a continuity read, but then I think I just need to be done with it for a while and focus on the next story. So, yeah.
That makes total sense. It is a vulnerable place, right? Because like writing is
Well,
vulnerable. Art is
well, and
vulnerable.
yeah, and you've read it, this book there's a lot of me in this book. There's
Yeah,
a lot of me.
there is, but there's such bravery too, I thought, in your writing that I really appreciated. Like
Thank
seeing like
you.
the you reflected in it. And I think you did a really good job of like having that vulnerable and those emotional connections without it feeling like forced and or like cheesy, which you
You're gonna
sometimes
make
can
me
get.
cry. You're gonna
Oh,
make me
great.
cry.
Ah, so good. Fantastic. Cheers to me.
Thank you for
No,
that boost.
I don't mean to make you cry. But I do understand. I think the trad route, I say why not? Like, and that's me, somebody outside
Right?
looking in. But I say why
Yeah.
not? Because yes, like there's a possibility of rejection. However, like I think you would at the end of the day sit there and be stressed doing the self-publishing route, and then even have maybe more self-doubt because
It's almost like a popularity contest in a way.
yeah,
And that part, I've really struggled with for a long time in the online business world because it is a real thing of
yeah,
like, how visible are you? How many referrals can you get? And just the thought of all that. But like I said, I've been reading this craft book and she actually talks about that. She's done some trad and some self-publishing. And so it was really nice to hear her takes on the different things. I mean, she
yeah.
even trad publishes, and then when they reject one of her books, she self-publishes it. And I was like, that's genius. So I think there's a way to do this that feels right for me. And I think that's just kind of where we are right now, is figuring out what that is. But I will tell you, like, sitting on almost finished book and knowing that it could be years before it sees the light of day is it's a little sad. So we'll see.
That
We'll see what
that for
happens.
sure is true. However, I do think we're just in this really interesting space publishing wise where one, there's more than one option, right?
Right.
That feels very doable. Two, I think there's like I said, your book hits so many good points and like fuels an audience that's already there, but is also unique in that space. That I think, like in terms of marketing, you're hitting what people already want and know and are looking for, but you're also providing like a fresh lens for it. So,
I will
and like a
say,
fresh storytelling. So I think
Yeah.
that will be the thing that
Yeah.
also makes it very marketable is it's like, oh, it's this that we know sells, but it's also new.
Yeah. I mean, I hope so. Looking for comps has definitely been interesting because I think that my book is about dancers and what happens
Mhm.
after dancing can't be done anymore. And there's not a lot out there that explores that. And so I really am hopeful that, it's marketable. But anyways, okay, we should move on. My goodness.
Well, we should. And but actually that's a great segue because I do think we're talking Remarkably Bright Creatures today by Shelby Van Pelt. And I will say the concept, the like key themes of her book aren't anything new that hasn't been done before, that are stories that haven't been told before. However, she does it in a new lens, and an interesting additional character that I would say like brought fresh light to the story. That is
Yeah.
one that we've heard, a dozen times before at least. Like so
Yeah.
let's let's jump into it. So thank you. Actually, your writing project was perfect.
Thank you.
So Remarkably Bright Creatures by Shelby Van Pelt. It was published in 2022. The plot is about a grieving widow, Tova Sullivan, who forms an unlikely friendship with Marcellus, a giant Pacific octopus at the aquarium where she works, and together they unravel the mystery of her son's disappearance decades earlier. A third character, Cameron, is introduced, and his connection to Tova is slowly revealed. The story is told from multiple perspectives, including Marcellus, which is that fresh angle we were just talking about, and explores themes of loneliness, loss, and connection, becoming a heartwarming tale of hope and second chances. And like I said, I think overall, if you were to sum it up, it's just kindness.
Yeah.
Like, it's kindness to others, it's kindness to creatures, it's kindness, to people where they're at. Like, I just think at the heart of the story, like, kindness is the thing.
Yeah.
It's set in the fictional town of Soul Bay, inspired by the Pacific Northwest. I will say, as somebody who's been like reading it to the last couple of days and then also watching the movie, I kept thinking, I was like, I feel like y'all are in Maine. Like, I feel like you're more on like the East Coast, but whatever.
Yeah, no, it felt very Pacific Northwest to me. And I
Okay.
love I love the Pacific Northwest. So the whole time I was reading slash watching, I was like, so when are we going? When are we going? When are we gonna go?
I would love to go. I'm
I
ready for
know.
our Hoa Hoa trip. Anyway,
Oh yeah.
reception of the books is it was a New York Times bestseller, a Today Show book club pick, and was just recently adapted into a Netflix film. So that's why we're covering it today because it's fresh,
Yep.
it's new. And so you
Yeah,
finished the book. What
I
were your
did.
thoughts?
Yeah, so this was her debut novel, which really surprised me. And when I read her bio on the back of the book, I was like, oh, she's just like a mom who wrote a book, which I thought was really cool. So
Yeah.
no shade there. I didn't love the book though. I gotta be honest. I know we're gonna go into it more in our after show, so stay tuned. But I really struggled with it. I kept so my mom read this book way before we did,
Uh-huh.
and she loved it. Like she read it. I mean, it's got to be almost a year ago when she read it, and so
Yeah,
I
I
kept
remember it being
texting
very
her.
like big, like 2 years
Yeah,
ago. Like every time I walked in Barnes and Noble, the cover was staring me in the face.
yeah, and so I kept texting her and being like, "What? Does it pick up? Like, what's going on?" Because it did feel very slow. I will say I loved the Marcellus chapters. They were so fun to write from the perspective of an octopus in a tank. Like, hello. And he's just such a great character because he is observing the humans in a way that they cannot observe themselves.
Right.
And I love that so much. It's such an interesting literary device, I would say, the way she uses him to forward the plot. And I mean, his chapters are literally a page. It's not like Marcellus has like a 10-page dialogue. Like it's literally
Right.
just a page and he's, reflecting on his life and he's reflecting on the humans in front of him that he sees and it's just, yeah, I did love that part. Towards the end, I really, really liked it. But I felt like there was a lot to get through to get to the part that was action. So the other thing that I thought was interesting, and maybe this is just because I'm a writer and I literally wrote a reveal, is
Mhm.
that I pretty much figured it out like right away. I
Yeah.
figured it out the whole plot right away. I was like, oh, I get this. I got it.
Yeah.
Figured out.
Yeah. I
Check.
do think like in terms if you one writer and or just like you pay attention. Because even like I watched the movie with my kids, right? And my 14-year-old was like, this is the plot. Like a third
Yeah.
of the way through the film was like, this is how it's going to end. And they were like, yeah, sure enough.
Yeah.
That's how it
Yeah.
ended. And I was like, yeah, you're just. Also, though, I will say, like, he's always been really good at picking up on some of those subtleties that, like,
Yeah.
but it just, yeah, I was like, yeah, no, you're not wrong. Like, this is predictable. So that's what I mean
Yeah.
when I say, like, it's not a story we haven't heard before. Or
Right.
I wouldn't say isn't like original, like that was such a plot twist. Like, sure, it was still a plot twist, but it was a predictable plot twist. Like,
Yeah. I mean, it was enjoyable. It's not my typical type of book that I read. And so it was a nice deviation, but would I read it again? No. You know?
yeah, I think it's like a kind of one and done. Like, oh, that was nice. I'm kind of getting that vibe too. Like, I'm like, oh, okay, I see why this appealed to so many mass audiences. I think Marcellus, like you said, is the real seller of the book because
Yeah.
he is offering that perspective of just seeing like the characters as they are without any of the other things. He
Yeah.
sees them from a very limited lens. And so he's just like to the core of who they are.
Yeah. He reminded me a lot of the octopus in Finding Dory, the septopus in Finding Dory, because he gets out of his enclosure a lot and causes
Mm-hmm.
mischief.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole time I was like, this reminds me of the septopus, you know? So I kept thinking about Finding Dory the whole time.
It's funny because I also thought of Finding Dory, but I also know this is like true of like I've heard aquarium stories where the octopuses get out and like cause
Really?
problems. Yeah, like that's an
Oh,
actual thing. Like I read about one that had escaped like through a tiny pipe because they also, can like compress their
yes,
bodies
which
and
he
fit.
does.
Yeah, and
Yeah, he
so
does in
this
the
one
book.
totally escaped, which is the octopus that inspired the Finding Dory octopus that I also then wonder if like this author was not as a mom was not also having the same inspiration lens.
Yeah, absolutely.
So me being the person that I am in our podcast dynamics where I always watch before I read, for better or for worse, I don't know. Cause then sometimes I'll be honest, some of these watches I've been like, I don't want to read the book.
No. I think that if I had watched this movie first, I wouldn't have wanted to read the book.
Mm. So, well, let's talk about the movie. So, the movie was just released. It's directed by Olivia Newman, who also directed Where the Crawdads Sing, so another book to screen adaptation, which I thought
Yes.
was interesting,
Yeah.
which was, a very critically acclaimed film.
Yep.
She also co-wrote the film with the screenwriter John Whittington, and it was released on Netflix on May 8th of this year. The cast is pretty great. I thought the cast was good. Sally
This was
Field
great.
was cast as Tova Sullivan, and I just think anything Sally Field touches has some magic to it.
Yeah.
Like I just think she's one of those truly professional, like, and so she's gonna come, and I think she did such a good job.
She
Lewis
did.
Pullman was cast as Cameron Castmore. Uh,
Wasn't he in
he was
else
in
has he
Top
been
Gun,
in? Top Gun.
the
Okay.
new one, like the new one.
I'm literally pulling up his IMDb because I like
Okay, because you know why he's so familiar to you if you do not know this yet?
why?
Because he's Bill Pullman's son.
Okay, but what has he been in now? I'm
Well,
gonna
I think
look.
his career is really starting to take off right now because he's about to be in another movie with Maya Hawke that I think is also a book to screen adaptation. Like he's had a lot of small roles, but I really feel like his career is starting to take off right now. Like he's in a bunch of stuff coming up.
He is Bill Pullman's son, but also the modern dancer Tamara Hurwitz. That's kind of incredible. I love that. I love that idea. Okay. All right. Well, interesting. Interesting. I thought he was great in this
Um,
movie.
no, he was fantastic. My little side, like I put in our notes, I was like, man, somebody who watched while you were sleeping was like, we have Bill
Oh,
Pullman's son.
yeah.
We are going to dress him 100% like his dad.
Oh my gosh, that's so true.
Because
I
he
didn't even
like
think
wears the
about that.
Carhartt jackets and everything. And I was
Yes,
like, listen, while you were sleeping, Bill Pullman is like
he's
one of
the
my favorite.
Bill Pullman. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
he's like
That's
one of my favorite characters ever. We'll talk about that later in the after show though. Anyway,
who else
so
we got?
I mean, I think everybody like if you watch the movie, you'll recognize everyone from the Nitwits. So I didn't really want to go into just, like super detail of everything they've been in because like they're key. And the Nitwits is her little knitting group that she's a part of. And so, and kind of like her support system, even though she doesn't allow them to be her support system. But Alfred Molina is the voice of Marcellus, and he did
So great.
such a good job because Marcellus has a lot of dry humor. Like he's
Yeah.
just very like dry in his delivery, and I just thought he did a beautiful job of providing a very rich voice to a very dry character. If
Yeah, well, and it's, in the movie, it's a literal octopus.
yeah,
And so it's not like its mouth is moving, it's not talking,
mm-mm.
And so it was really, I really thought the way they did it, it worked so well. And with Alfred
Yeah,
Molina, I mean, his voice has just got this, you know, deep sound that just, I was like, yeah, absolutely, that's the octopus. Like it made
yeah,
total sense to me.
yeah, very rich, but again, very dry because like he's very dry in his delivery. Like there is
Yeah.
no like, I mean, he's looking at them and he's like, humans are silly and
Yeah.
bumbling.
Yeah.
He's saying y'all are ridiculous.
Yeah,
Um,
I loved the opening when we first see Marcellus and he's in his enclosure and we're looking out from his enclosure at the kids with their
mhm,
faces and
yeah,
their hands all over the glass, and I just loved that whole, I mean, I will think twice next time I go to an aquarium and
right.
put my hands all over the place.
Yeah. Back to like Nemo and stuff, but like when they're sitting there, we're
Poker.
crying, sleeping.
Yeah, it was, yeah, same things. Yeah.
Yeah.
So fun.
No, but I think it was really good because I think too, there were some poignant points he brought up where it was just a line he said and it made you go, ooh. And that makes me think about my behavior, Marcellus. Thank you so much.
I know, right? I know. I felt like the book hit me emotionally, but I think the movie even more so.
Yeah.
And I think that, the themes of the movie, like I know you said kindness, but there's also this real theme about like aging and what your life looks like when you get
Mhm.
older. And do you let yourself just go into the abyss, or do you build something even in your later years? And I mean, I was bawling at the end of this movie.
Yeah. But no, I put in
Just
the notes, I was like, dang it, octopus movies are gonna have to go on my list with dog movies. I don't watch them, so I don't because I don't want to cry.
literally, I will not, if this is a dog movie, I won't watch it. This is a very true story. There's been a lot of dog
Dog
movies, and I'm like,
movies.
hard
No, I
pass, hard pass.
listen, people are like, it's a dog movie. I said, no, no. I did my
Yeah,
dog Skip. I cried enough.
I know. I haven't seen any dog movie that's come out. I just can't. You're right. Octopuses are now on the list. Octopi, octopuses. I don't know.
I don't know.
Um,
Octopus movie
yeah,
now on the list. No, because it did. I do think like it was emotionally heavy hitting. There's so much grief in this film that needs to be discussed, and I think there's so much when I say kindness, like kindness to self when your life doesn't look the way you want it to at the end. That needs to happen. Like Tova needs to offer herself a lot of kindness. And I think it was what I found very interesting and I put in her notes. So like Tova has a moment right in the film where she's really obsessing about a new detail in this like story that's unresolved with her son. And her friend who's helping her do it, she's like, what's the point if you stop like the business of living? And then I think Tova like takes that and like her friend actually calls her out and says, like, you're being a bad friend. Like you are being a bad
yeah,
friend because you are so concerned with like making sure you don't burden anyone or you don't do like you just have shut yourself out. And I think that's very interesting because I don't think we hear that very often. I don't think our
no,
people in grief get called out enough. And I'm not saying go call out someone in grief. I'm just saying like I appreciated Tova's character development where she recognizes like, oh, me trying to be what I thought was doing the right thing and not burdening others was actually doing harm.
yeah, yeah. Well, and I think what I loved so much about the story too is Tova has been grieving for a very long time. This is not like a year or two. This is like years of grieving.
Yeah. Well,
And
not even that. She now has also a new added grief because she had this experience years ago and then she also then loses her husband. So she's like in double layers of grief. Like two
yeah,
different griefs are happening.
yeah. And I thought it was so interesting. I mean, I love a cast of characters. We've talked about this a lot. But what I loved that the author did, and then they did a really good job in the movie too, was showing that she did have a lot of people around her who had been trying to help her.
Yeah.
And there's this moment when a character comes into her home and does some stuff for her, and she's angry. Like, she's so mad. Like, how dare you come and do all these things? And then when she realizes like what he actually did for her,
Yeah.
like literally puts a handrail up, and she's like, "Oh, now I can go down the stairs easier." And then she realizes like how bad her reaction was. And she's like literally, and of course Sally Field and her geniusness, sitting on the stairs holding onto that rail, sobbing.
Mhm.
And I think, I loved that because I think that we have to grieve on our own. I think that we have been taught
Yeah.
to grieve on our own. I think that we've been taught to sits over here. As someone who has gone through trauma and grief, I will tell you, like, even just bringing it up, I feel guilty because I don't
Right.
want to make anybody sad. Oh, I'm so sorry. That's such a sad story. And what happens is then the more that you internalize that and bring it into your home, the less you share that with other people. And I really do think like the less that you know how to interact with them normally. Because, like with Tova, that grief, it defined her life. It shaped her life
Well,
into
and
what it
not only,
was.
yeah, because it also became the talk of the town, right? And
Yeah.
like, and that, like she says multiple times, I don't like gossiping. But then, like when she's with Marcellus, she'll just gossip away. Uh, but she didn't like
Yeah.
gossiping because she didn't like the stories that were being told that were also affecting her grief. Because then she, it was skewing and her her experience with her son a lot.
Yeah.
And so she
Well, and
didn't.
and it was making her question everything she knew about
Right,
him, right?
right.
You know, and
So
and so, without giving away too much, it does really wrap up in this lovely, beautiful way where she realizes the story that she was telling herself was correct. And,
right,
and that the memory of what that she held was the correct one.
right.
And I did love that. I did love that a lot.
Yeah.
I
Well,
cried.
and I
I
loved it
bawled.
wasn't even, yeah, and it wasn't even just like her story, right? Because like it ended up being other characters' stories too.
Right.
And so a lot
Right.
of characters were experiencing kind of the same grief and this narrative that was being told to them to then have that rectified was really beautiful in the end. And so I think, yes, when we talk about second chance and like new hope, that's definitely was there and it was really, really good. And I think everyone did great. I also loved like so Tova had lost her husband at the beginning of the film, like not too long ago, but maybe like it had been a year or so.
Yeah, I think so. I don't know that they said the exact time, but it had been a
Yeah.
while. Like it wasn't
Yeah.
like super recent.
No, like she'd definitely been it'd been a bit. And so she does go on a date, and I really loved all the dating roles the Nitwit group brought forward. Like,
That was
no,
hilarious.
he's
But
serious if you trimmed his beard and wore a collared shirt. And I was like, do these roles exist still?
right? I did love that. Yeah, that whole scene was hilarious, and I thought the actresses who played the Nitwits did such a wonderful job
They
in
did
that
such a
scene.
wonderful job.
It made me want a group of old lady friends like that for sure.
Seriously, I was like, how do I start my own Nitwit group? I don't want to knit, but like, I want a Nitwit group.
Well, Tova was the only one who knitted. She would sit there, I'm just here to knit. And like they would be gossiping. I'm just here to knit. It was so funny.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true. So overall, like, yes, I think it's worth a watch. Like, I do think it's worth a watch. I think it was a
Yeah.
beautifully done film. The setting was gorgeous. This is my little brain
Yes.
where I can't watch anything without making a connection to something else. I swear IMDb lives in my head. Because you're sitting there and they like show the story, and I'm like, that looks like the Goosebumps series. On Google, and sure enough, it was. I was like, that
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, your brain is like a vault of movie knowledge. That's hilarious.
I recently
Okay.
texted you another one I was watching where I was like, hold up. I wish it didn't
That's
do that because sometimes then I can't help but overlap the stories in my head.
yeah, that's
But,
hilarious.
well, be warned, anyone who watches a movie with me, I might sit there and go, time out. This voice is this person here, or time out, that set was used here.
I know, I love it. I mean, when we were talking about Regency era and you were like naming the dresses that had been in, and then I found a post. I love stuff like that. It's hilarious. Yeah. But yeah, this movie was really, I definitely think like if you haven't read or watched, I would just watch. I'm gonna be honest.
Yeah.
I think the movie kind of cuts out a lot of the fluff that's in the book that I felt was very unnecessary to the story. And it did change some things. There were some major minor things that were changed, but
I
didn't
don't think
really
I've gotten
affect
that
it
far
too
enough yet
much.
to like see the major minor changes because you said like almost halfway through the book, and that's when you said like, oh, that's when the movie really like picks up.
No, it really does. I feel like the movie starts in the middle of the book because I was about 3/4 away done with the book, and then I watched the movie. And when we started watching the movie, I was like, I felt like I had read half a book for nothing, to be honest, because I feel like the way they condensed it was so nice and
Yeah.
enjoyable. So
Yeah.
it was interesting. I'm curious to see what this author does next because I don't
Yeah.
know. Has she released a book since this one?
I don't think so. I don't
Yeah.
remember.
I don't
Um,
I don't either. And yeah, and this being her debut novel, I'm like, okay, well, what are you gonna do next? So
that is very interesting. And it being such a unique story in a lot of ways. Like, I think that's, I don't know. I'd be curious to see what she does next.
side note, I loved the way that Marcellus describes what's going on in the other aquariums, like the other enclosures. And like there's this whole
Mhm.
conversation about the seahorses and how it's their mating season, and it's
Yeah.
hilarious.
Yeah.
So did love that. And that was in the movie a little bit. They did put that in for a snippet, which I really enjoyed. So very interesting.
I agree. I think overall, I would recommend the watch for sure. Then if you're curious about the book, read the book. How, you do you. Whatever floats your boat.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly. And there were some boats in this. Yeah, and before we sign off, I just want to mention to everyone like we are doing a book club through our Patreon. And this month we are reading every summer after, and we're going to watch every year after, and then we're going to chit chat about it. And so definitely go check that out if you're interested in joining that. And then we also have a new level for TBR recommendations. So if you're an independent author or if you're just a bookstagrammer who has so many books that you want to share, please go on there and share them with us every month. I do a TBR call and we will mention those at the front of our episode and give you a shout out and a link and all those things. So yeah.
yeah, other than that, thank you all for listening. Please join us in our ambitious listener section. We're going to dive a little bit deeper into like book versus movie. I think we're both kind of camp movie on this one. It is a beautiful film, and I really want to live in Tova's house because that was a gorgeous house.
Dude, her house. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Amazing.
But we're going to talk about that a little bit more. And maybe, if you listen to our ambitious listener section, I'll tell you funny Bill Pullman antidote. Anyway, that's all.
Sounds great. All right. Well, thank you so much for being with us. And be sure to join us on Instagram and Threads. And we'll be back next week with another episode.
Bye. I have nothing to
Okay.
sing.